Is debt bad? Like, really sit down and think about that question, because we all hate debt, and there's so much content out there and so many financial experts like Dave Ramsey who explicitly exist to help people to pay down debt and almost nothing else. But is it really that bad? Let's go ahead and break it down. When we talk about debt, right, is the amount that you owe. And my argument is this: it depends, and it really comes down to two things. What is the interest rate that you're paying on that debt, and what are you getting out of the item that you're buying? That's it. Because if you were to say, hey, you're going to take out a loan for $400,000 and you're going to take on $400,000 of debt, that's what a loan is that good or bad? Well, it depends. If you're buying a house, might not be that bad at all, right? If the interest rate is 2%, that might not be that bad either. You might want to hold on to the house and just stay there forever, right? But if you were to do the exact same thing and say, hey, I'm going to take $400,000, I'm going to go get a degree in tacos, that sounds delicious, but I'm not sure if that is the best investment, especially if you're going to pay 8 or 9% on that $400,000 education. There's the case right there. What are you going to get out of this thing, and how much is that absolutely going to cost you? This is why something like credit cards, where the interest rate can be well over 20%, that is usually a pretty bad thing, and it is usually something that you are going to continuously use. Like, I don't know if I want to take out credit card debt for gasoline, right, without paying that balance in full, and I don't want to do it for stuff that I'm going to go and pay for Amazon, because again, for 20%, that's probably not the best use of my money. But if I'm taking an investment in myself, right, I still want to evaluate what the interest rate is and what I'm going to get out of it. This is why when people talk about college loans and the whole student loan debt crisis, I sat down when I decided to go back to grad school to say, where am I going to school? What is the average pay of people who graduate? And how long is it going to take me to come back and pay these loans? I wanted to make sure that when I left here, right, when I left whatever program I was going to go to, it had to be 6 figures or more, okay? If that wasn't the average pay, I wasn't applying, I wasn't gonna go there, okay? Because I wanted to make sure that that investment paid off. And you have to sit down and do the math and do the calculations, do the interviews and talk to people to decide, is this the right degree path that you want to take? Is this the right investment you want to make in yourself? And when are you going to break even? I had entire spreadsheets breaking down year by year when this degree program was going to pay off. And I find that there are a lot of people going back to grad school out of boredom, people going back because they don't know what else to do, and not really doing that part of the equation. And then you have others that just say, you know, all debt is bad no matter what it is. And that's not, it's not that black and white, right? It really depends on what is the value that you are getting out of this thing, and so much of it is what you are paying for that thing. Even when we look at the nation, right, our $1 trillion debt, wherever it is right now, I don't know if it's 1.7, 1.3 trillion, wherever it is, the key is how much are we paying on the debt? Because prior to the pandemic, when the interest rate was low, it really wasn't that big of a deal. We were making those payments, everything was fine for the most part, right? Other than the fact that yes, the debt existed, but it was fine up until we started to see the Fed raise interest rates after 2020, really 2022 and 23. Now it's starting to become an issue, right? Now the U.S. debt has been downgraded. The U.S. credit has been downgraded due to the interest payments. Not necessarily the debt itself, but the interest payments that we now need to have on that debt. Even when we look at stocks, there are companies that have debt that are fine, right? And they're fine because we know they are growing, we know they're making enough revenue, and we expect that particular place or that industry to grow and continue to grow well into the future. But it depends, right? A company like an AMC or a Mullen Automotive, where you're taking on so much debt and we don't know if you can make those payments, those are the companies that don't do well, right? And they tend to fall in times when interest rates are rising, which again is what we have seen over the past year and change. So it always depends on what are you paying and what is the context, right? What is the interest rate that you're going to pay? But at the end of the day, at the end of all of this, debt is a tool. Debt is an instrument that you can use to grow and really expand what you are trying to do with yourself, with your business, with your home, with your assets, or it is something that you can use to hurt yourself too, right? And I see it as completely neutral. I've even been quoted in a few other TikToks and stuff around how I feel about buy now, pay later. That is the micro loans that are out there where you can buy an item now and pay $50 every 2 weeks, right, until the item is paid off. Those are technically loans. My argument has been, I'm fine with that. I am totally fine with that if I am paying $0 in interest. That's fine, right? Instead of me paying $200 right now, why not just hold on to my $200 and just pay, $50 a week? I can continue getting my regular paycheck, or taking that money and invest and using some of the interest to pay off all that kind of stuff, and just hold on to my capital and not just spend it all at once. Why not just stretch it out? That's a benefit to me. But if I'm paying 5% interest or 10% interest on that, that's a different story, right? So all that stuff does depend. But debt, in and of itself, there's no point in being afraid of it. And there's no point in just shunning debt altogether. And it's one reason why I've always said, hey, just being debt free and nothing else isn't the goal. I would rather have $100,000 in debt. I would rather have $200,000 in debt if my bank account says $1 million. Okay, versus being debt free and having no money in my savings, having no money elsewhere. That's why I don't believe in taking out of your investments to just go off and pay your debt where you're at zero and you have nothing on either side of the balance sheet. You want to be balanced. You want to pay down your debt while investing, while saving, while growing your overall portfolio and your net worth. Okay, so that is how you should look at debt in my view. And I think that is how, honestly, that's how math works, right? You got to understand how the math works, what those payments are, and most importantly, what is the value that you are getting out of it. You want to learn more about finance, about investing, everything in between, then you want to check out these videos next.